this is the design we're going to be doing today. I drew up just a very, very basic design in Figma. We're going to have, it's a navigation. So you could see, if we look at the mobile, we have, I'm calling this just the brand section. I'm calling these the links. We're going to have like home, about, contact, sign out, and then we have our main section. On the tablet, it's going to be the same thing, but it's going to be responsive. So the buttons are going to stretch out a little bit, and this is also going to stretch out a little bit. And then when it comes to the desktop, this navigation is actually going to pop over onto the side. A div that is hidden on the mobile and tablet version is going to pop up here, and it's going to grow with Flexbox. And then, actually, more like that. I don't know why I had 5 there. This is going to be the sign out button down here. We're going to have our 3 home, contact, and about. And then this is going to be our brand section. And we have our main section right here. So for those who are our typical subscribers, we have James and we have Ricky right now. Do y'all have any questions before we get started?
Not me. I'm good.
Okay, cool. And then, for
Are you
those,
already recording?
yeah, I'm already recording, so we'll be good to go. I'm gonna pop open my code editor. We'll start coding immediately. But for those who are new, I do see some red mics here, so you don't even have the ability to unmute. If you are curious about unmuting, coding along, asking questions, getting interactive, engaging with other people and all that stuff, feel free to, if you're new to the server, you probably haven't even read the Start Here channel yet, so feel free to hop up to the Start Here channel. It has all the information you need to navigate the server. We're still in Discord right now. We're actually going to be moving over to Zoom sooner than later, just to make it a lot easier for people. But you'll see a link here. If you pop that open, you'll see the free trial, and you could try that out for now. We're actually going to be moving away from Patreon in the next, by April 1st, we're moving towards Stripe. So like I said, we're launching an automated system just to make everything so much easier for everybody. And like James said, like this is just navigating, finding Discord, finding the right channel. It's just a little bit inconvenient. The ease of use isn't as good as we want it to be, and that's just understanding feedback from people who have been coming here. The website's going to make it a lot easier just for people to find this and get involved. But like I said, the price is going to be going up once the website is launched. So all right, let's get to it though. So this is going to be our design. I'm going to go ahead and just move this to the side. And I already have an HTML and CSS. So you can see that if we look at the mobile design, there's a couple different components we have here. So what are like the 2 obvious ones? What are the 2 elements that are going to be sitting inside of the body? Ricky or James?
Body?
Yeah, so if let's just start with our mobile design for now. Like, we're not even gonna look at our desktop design right now. So just looking at,
Well, you need a couple of divs at least.
yeah.
Right?
So what's this gray one and what's this light red one? What would you call those?
Play one. I'd make the first one is going to be the nav bar, and the second one is what, a main?
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. And then so our main, we're not even gonna touch the main during this class right here. We're just gonna let this sit there. We're gonna style it a little bit, but we're not gonna touch it. And so inside the nav, there's going to be a couple other things that I have here. One is going to be a div. I'm going to call this, we'll call it like side nav, because, yeah, we'll call it side nav. And then inside this, we're actually going to have I'm going to go ahead and call this green section. We'll just call this brand. We'll call that brand. And inside our brand, I didn't put this on the design, but let me just add something here as well. I'm going to put like something just for like a logo. Something of that nature. That should be good. So we'll go ahead and we'll do another div. Div here. And we'll call this one logo. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just creating the structure of the HTML. We have our nav. So our nav is, let me zoom in a little bit. Our nav is just this gray section here. And then I'm creating, we don't have to create this side nav component here, but I'm kind of thinking in the terms of React, like I want to be able to extract this and create a component out of it. So I'm creating a div here just because I'm kind of thinking ahead. But you don't have to do this. You could just use the nav. I'm doing this just because I'm thinking ahead. But you don't even have to think about that. And then we have brand. So we're separating this side nav, so the gray component, by this green component, and then by our separate links. So these 4 links are actually going to be inside a component of their own. So we have our side nav, and then we're going to call, I guess we could go ahead and call this links. And inside here we're going to have a couple things. So I kind of want to plan ahead too, because if you look at this mobile screen here, we have 4 links. We have we'll just call it an anchor tag. I'll go ahead and create an anchor tag. But I'm going to create multiple anchor tags. So let me go ahead, create anchor tag, and then inside the anchor tag, I'm going to create a P just for, we'll go ahead and just put a little bit of text. Now this P, this paragraph, I don't want this to show up on the mobile, because on mobile, you really only want what you need. So we'll go ahead and I know I don't have to be editing this in real time, but just so everybody understands the difference. Contact, about, or vice versa, and then log out. And so on our desktop version, you're going to see these words. On the mobile version, you're not even going to see those words. We should really be using icons, but we're not even going to use icons right now. Because the purpose of this is just responsive design. So I want to make sure that the layout, the responsiveness, the media queries, all that is super important. As far as like filling it in with marketing content or icons or brand market, anything marketing related, we're going to pass on that for now. So each one of these is going to be an anchor tag with a P, the paragraph being hidden on mobile. And then, so let me go ahead and create 2 more of those. We'll create our about, and we'll create our contact. Now, for those who see this desktop, we're actually going to have a div here that only shows up on the desktop, that's not here on the mobile. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create that here. We'll just keep that div. And then log out, I'm going to switch it up a little bit just so everybody could see a different element. And we'll just say button, log out. And I guess for consistency, I'll put a P inside of it. It'll make it a little bit easier, similar to the anchor tag. All right, so let me slide this over and see what we have so far. All right, so this is what we have so far. This is what it looks like. And this is basically all of our HTML code. So we got, actually, this stuff we don't want inside there. We want inside our links. So that's that. And then if I refresh, it still looks the same. Clearly, there's no styles. This here, I'll give a class of just space. I mean, that's literally what it is. It's just space. And then if we come over and look at our design, we have our 4 links. We have our button. We have our main. Let's see. Who do we have in here who are subscribers so far? Tiffany, what's going on?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. So I'm just showing people. We're starting with the mobile design here first.
Okay.
And then we're gonna go ahead and do the desktop design afterwards. So you can see that in the mobile design, we have our navigation on the top. We're gonna have like a little marketing banner with a logo. We're gonna have 4 links. We're gonna have home, about, contact, sign out. And then on our desktop, you can see that top nav turns into a side nav. This div appears and spreads the logout to the bottom. This becomes a little bit bigger, and our main section goes to the side. So I'm just working through that right now. Is there any elements that I'm missing? Based on this mobile design or this desktop design, are there any elements that you guys think I'm missing?
No, I believe it's all good.
Okay. All right. Cool, cool. So, let's just take a look at this really quick. I want to give... All right. So I want to go ahead and give... I want to style the body a little bit. Let me just go over to this. And I'm going to say background color. Let's give the body a background color of... all right, so we're not seeing the background color for the body. Why? James, why?
I'm sorry, I'm doing the coding. I'm not looking at the figure.
Okay, all right, my bad. I won't ask you anymore. Tiffany, why? Why are we not seeing the background color of the body?
Background color? Because it's not. We don't have it as part of the CSS.
It's in the CSS.
Background color on the bottom. And you're not.
Oh, okay.
The background color of the bottom, you should see it.
Why aren't we seeing it? It's a mistake everybody makes. Especially the newer you are, the more likely you are to make this mistake.
The style, did you put the colon in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Um.
Oh, what? Okay, let me just follow up on that copy the code.
Look at the head of the HTML. What's missing?
The CSS, right? The style sheet.
Yeah, you gotta put the style sheet in.
Exactly.
The link for the style sheet. Very good. What was that, Tiffany?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, so there we go.
Oh.
Now we have the body style. I'm just gonna say 100 VH. I want that body to always be 100% of the viewport height. Let me go ahead and sort of just make all of the elements relevant. So let's say background color here. We're also gonna do an RGBA. Let's see.
What's the difference between the RGBA and then just doing the color code, like the pound and the color?
It's the same thing. I mean,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's just preference at the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
I use
Yeah.
both. If I'm just like trying to set like a gray or a red or something, then I'll use RGBA. But if I have a very specific color that I'm trying to target, I probably don't know the numbers. So,
Oh, okay.
but I
Oh,
do have a couple numbers written down over here as well, just for like
okay.
future colors. So I'll be entering some of that stuff too.
And also, can't you change the transparency of the color of the RGBA?
Yes, that's this last one here. All right, so we got 100% width. Just making sure it's the full width. And then I'm going to, what else do we have here? We have our side nav. So I'm going to go ahead and say side nav. I'm going to skip this one for now. I really just want to make sure everybody's able to see all the different elements that are important. So let's go ahead and say we have our brand and we have our logo. So I'm going to go ahead and create the brand.
Is that for the mobile, the sidebar, the side?
Yes, this is
Nav?
this is the mobile version we're doing right now. So everything we're doing, when I go ahead and create a CSS style sheet, I want to start creating it as the mobile version. You're gonna see me create styles for the desktop later, but you always want to do mobile first. At least that's a method that they use in the industry. It's a best practice. You design for mobile, and then any other styles you add to it later is gonna be, like you'll add those with media queries or depending on which design system you're using. With traditional CSS, the way we're doing it right now, you're just gonna use media queries later, but I'll show you about that too. So I do have a background
No.
color. I do have a background color for this here. And the background color here is D5FFE0.
No hamburger menu?
No, sir.
They stopped doing that?
No, we're not doing that today. So you can see this is where our brand is going to go. If we look over at the Figma, that's our brand. So you can see that's our brand. Underneath our brand is our links. It looks like everything is good so far. I'll go ahead and give this a border radius. Just curl the edges a little bit, and I'll go ahead and do rem. There we go. So that's looking pretty close. And then I'll go ahead and do the logo. So with the logo, I just want to give a little width of, let's say, 4 rem. What's this one? This one is 4 rem. So 4 rem. And let's do a background color for this as well. And for this one, we'll go ahead and just do this color here so you can see. So it's just gray. I think I could add a padding here just so it's a little bit more clear. We'll go with 5 pixels just so you can see where the green is, like where the logo is, and there we go. So that's looking pretty good so far. All right, so we have our logo. We have our whole nav, which is the dark gray. Our side nav, which is just like an extra div that I use to extract this entire component out and just like thinking ahead. Brand is the green container. The brand contains the logo, and then we'll go ahead and we'll get to our anchor tags. So let me see this real quick. Oh, so we have a div containing our anchor tags. And so this is links. Our links, we're not going to go ahead and I'm going to add some flexbox to this in a little bit, but we'll skip that for right now. I do want to add a background color. Let me just see what color that was. Background color FF B2 to each one of the links. And I need to give them some height and width so you can see them. And let's go ahead and let's just see where these are right now. So we have our side nav, we have our links. Perfect. These are showing up. Cool. All right. We have our button and we have our space. All right, cool. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and create one for our space. We're not gonna do anything there yet. And then we'll create one for our main, and I'm gonna give a background color to our main. And our background color for the main is gonna be, we'll just go with an RGB here. 255. Cool. All right, and we're gonna use like tons of flexbox on this stuff. So let me go ahead and just hop back up to the body, make sure I'm not missing anything for this body. So with the body, if you look at our design, we're gonna have the nav, so like our main nav and our main, or like our nav container element and our main, they're gonna be flex, but they're gonna be column. But then when we go ahead and look at the desktop, they're still flex, but we want this to move over to the side instead of we want it to be on the left of the main container instead of on the top of the main container. And so in our default set in mobile, we're going to put flexbox on the body, and it's going to be flex direction is going to be column, so that the elements go from top to bottom. And then in our desktop, flex direction is going to change to row, so they're side by side. So we'll go ahead and we'll just say display flex for now, and we're going to say flex direction column, which isn't going to change anything, but it's going to be important for later on. We have our background color for our nav. We have our width. In our default state, of the nav, we don't want any flex here. I don't even think technically I need to put this, but just for clarity, we don't want flex on this nav right here. The way that this is designed, you're not going to have to worry about that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of padding here as well, just so we could give a little space around here. You can see we just have a little space here. All right, here's a question. So as you can see, when I give padding to this nav, let me go ahead and take it away. And you can see how it fits back perfectly. But when I add padding, if you watch, kind of like the content doesn't fit inside the screen. So does anyone have any idea why that's happening?
Within the screen.
See how it's like move the content is on the right now. It's like kind of going off the screen a little bit. Not off the screen, but it's just making it so you could scroll to the right, which it shouldn't be.
Let's see. I don't know. Do you need a mark? You know, a marker. Why does it move?
This is a fundamental concept of just CSS in general.
Oh my god, and I don't know.
It's all good. Most people don't know it because there are like usually the style sheets that you use, especially if you use Bootstrap or another design system, it's kind of built in. I'm gonna go ahead and show you. So if I go ahead and apply box sizing, border box, that should fix it. Yeah, there we go. And then it looks like the logo. For rem, the height of the container is, all right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do for the height here. 100% should, there we go. All right, so our logo is back where it's supposed to be. All right, so just planning ahead for this side nav, I'm gonna go ahead and add flex here. Flex direction, I'm gonna go ahead and add column, and I'm gonna go ahead and add a height of 100%. Don't worry about this, like I said, I'm kind of just thinking ahead here. And then see, we are good to go. Flex direction, height, side nav. So we have our body, our nav, our side nav. These styles are pretty much done now. Make this a little clearer. There we go. So we have our brand. Our brand, we have a background color of this here. You can see the green that I chose here. The height of 4 rems. Border radius, we already added that there. And then I added a little bit of padding. But I'm also going to go ahead and just add a margin bottom. Let's see what this does for us. Let's just go ahead and say 0.5. Just give us a little space down there. I'm going to go ahead and comment this out. For now, I do like to have a little bit of space at the bottom there. And so what's our brand sitting inside of? Our brand is sitting inside of our side nav. Okay. So let's go ahead and do align items flex end. All I did was change the margin bottom. We're going to be changing some of the stuff inside of the brand in just a minute as well. So okay. All right. I'm going to keep that like that just for now. We're definitely going to come back and revisit brand. And then our logo looks pretty good too, but I'm gonna go ahead and add a border radius too, just to give it a little, make it a little smoother, and that should be good. All right, cool. So let's take a look at just where everything is sitting right now. So we have our body. If I hover over the body, you can see I have a little bit of margin on the outside. We have our nav container up top. Everything should be sitting inside of here, right? Inside of our nav container. So let's see. All right. So everything is sitting inside of our nav container. We have our div, our side nav. So let's check out these styles here. Our side nav height is 100%. Cool. Flex and flex direction. Column. And then we see our links down here. It's a container of its own. Let's take a look at the HTML and CSS. So you can see we have our links here. Inside this div, we have 1, 2, 3 links. We have our space div, and then we have our button. So first, second, third, each one of them have a paragraph. We have our space div, which we definitely shouldn't be seeing in the mobile version. And then we have our button. So what we want to do now is we want to fix these links here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of styles to these links here. I'm going to add display flex because I know I'm going to want to align them, and I know that I want the anchor tags to grow in just a minute. I also want this links div to grow. And then flex direction is going to actually start off as row. Why are we starting off this flex direction as row? Let me ask one of you that. Let's see who's here. Ricky said Ricky's not here. Ricky said he'd be hopping off. He'd be popping back in and out, so he's not here right now. So let me ask Tiffany. Tiffany, if you look at our design, why are we making our links? So we have 4 links here. What's containing these 4 links is a div. We're setting the links div that's containing these 4 links to flex.
Okay.
We want this links div. I'm going to go ahead and just, this links div is basically right there. I think I can move this back.
Are you trying to change the color of the links, or?
No, I'm just trying to make it obvious that we do have another div, but I think you get it. So we have a div up here, and then we have a div containing these links. And so why am I setting the flex direction of the container that's containing these 4 links to row?
Is that I'm thinking that the rows is pretty much which is the home, the contact. So the links is pretty much what you're clicking on when you go to each page.
No. Good try though. So basically in the mobile version, you can see that these 4 elements are lined up in a row. So in our body, we have our nav and we have our main. And you can see that these are aligned in a column because the nav is on top of the main. So this gray box is on top of this red box down here, right? So they're lined up as a column. Whereas with this container that's containing our anchors, this is, these are set up in a row. So these aren't like on top of each other. these don't go from top to bottom. These go from left to right. And since they go from left to right, side to side, you want them aligned as row. And so that's basically what this is saying right here. Later on, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the flex direction of these links to column. Because you can see right here, they're not side by side anymore, right? They're top to bottom.
Yes.
So I'm going to change the flex direction a little bit later on. So that is why we're setting this container to row, because they're side by side. We want them side by side, so it's flex direction row.
So when you're doing a mobile version of an app, how big the length and the width should be?
Of what?
Of the app. So say for instance we creating an app right now and we doing a mobile version and a desktop version. So what's the dimensions for the mobile version
So
each time?
it depends on what you're building, like, and what screens you're using. Like right now, I'm just using iPhone 8. So the dimensions of the iPhone 8 are different than the other iPhones and other phones. Same with the iPad Pro.
So you use a template. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this desktop, I
Oh,
believe, is
okay.
like 1440 width. So I'm just using some kind of standard sizes here.
Okay.
But you would really want to create a design that works with all screens, all sizes, you know. And that's part of this. What we're doing here is this is responsive design. It should work with this mobile phone, even though, what are the dimensions of this? 375 pixels wide, 667 pixels high. It should also work with this iPad Pro, so 834 pixels wide, 1194 pixels height. And then it should also work with this desktop, 1440 pixels wide, 1024 pixels high. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're designing for multiple different screens, but we're just keeping it with 3 right now for simplicity.
Okay, and to make it responsive, isn't there like a certain link that you had to put in the HTML to make it responsive?
No, I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. So let's go ahead and just take a look at...
Nice.
Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have so far. So, if I go ahead and stretch this, we have a problem, right? Because this brand spot is responsive. See how it's stretching with the screen?
Yes.
But it's not happening with these. But you could see, if you look at our designs, that the mobile phone and the tablet, they're basically the same. The only difference between the mobile and the tablet is that these links are wider in the tablet than they are on the phone. So you can see that when I extend this out, these links should actually be stretching as well. They should all be stretching. So I'm actually working through that right now. Yeah, so you'll see the links. So we have, so our links are row. You can see now they're set up as a row. Just right before I added this, let's go ahead and just comment this out for a minute. No flex box at all. Look at this. Now they're column. So by default, they're column because these are block elements. But once I add flex, default is row here, but I added just for clarity. So there we go. And now we're set up in a row. We're still on the links here. I'm going to go ahead and justify content. And I'm going to say space between. And now we have some space in between. Now it's getting a little bit more responsive, right? It's still not exactly what we want it to be because they're staying the same size. We want these to change size. So that's what we're going to be doing in just a minute. But you can see now, just by adding space between, now it's a little more, a little better here. All right, so we have our links. I believe this should be good for here. our A tag. So we have I don't. If I want to center the text inside of here, flex, I would definitely want to add to it. So I'll add flex for now. Let's say flex grow 1. So we want each one of these buttons to grow to fill the remaining space, right? So there we go. Now we have, now they're actually growing with the screen. You see how flex grow did that? But it still doesn't look good. We still need some space in between here as well. So let's go ahead and do align items and justify content. So this is for anything that's going to be inside of them. So for the text that's going to be inside of these, you can see how we just centered that. Let me go ahead and just comment those out so you can see how this changes. So I'm adding this here, align items and justify content, to center the text and make it look better. But we're actually going to be removing this text. So we technically don't need these align items because I don't believe that we're going to be aligning the items in the desktop version. So if we look at this, yeah, I think it looks better with the text on the left. But everything's up in the air. You kind of just make decisions as you go along. So a lot of times things change, so no sweat if you do decide to go. You have the code written, ready to go. So we have justify content. We're going to want to put a gap in between there. We have... let me go ahead and take this width out of here. What do you guys think happens when I take this width out of here? Actually, let me add the gap first. So it's just going to be gap 0.5 rem. So there we go. So we have height and width right here. I'm curious. Actually, I'm going to put a gap here to 0.5 rem. So that's going to look a lot better. Now we have much more responsiveness here. This looks a lot better already. But what happens when I go ahead and delete this width? Who do we have who actually has access? James, what do you think? Just take a guess.
I'm sorry, I have no idea. To be honest.
Let's give it a shot.
You delete the width.
Do we even need it?
You don't need a width, right?
Why don't we need it?
It's responsive. You're using the whole. You're using 100% of the vertical, right? So, when it's responsive, it's going to grow.
Yep. So the
If
nav
you're
is
saying
100%.
100% of whatever you 100% of whatever you're looking at, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a width.
Yes. Because we have the nav is with 100%, and then we have flex grow on each one of these anchor tags, and so they're going to grow to fill up any of the remaining space, essentially.
Okay, a question.
Yes, sir.
Even if you don't have nav for 100% of the width, if you have what is it, the top of the tree that says 100% of the width, that you're using 100% of the width, Is it in the meta that you can do it?
No.
You can't do it in the meta. Okay. Was a question. Was just a question. Sorry.
No,
No,
you're good.
not sorry. I
You're
didn't
good.
know. So I asked a question.
Nah, you're good. I encourage that. So we're going to go ahead, and these just look a little stiff. So I'm going to go ahead and add a border radius. I'm going to change the text size just to make it look a little bit better. I think we'll go with 0.375, and then I will go with font size 0.875 maybe. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. And then also, a problem we have here is when we hover over it, it's still the cursor, it's not a pointer. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a cursor, a pointer. There we go. Cool, cool. That looks a lot better. All right. So space. In our mobile version, it's going to be display none. You know what? Let me go ahead and just go live so I don't have to keep refreshing. I don't know what I was doing. This should now, every time I save, it should update automatically. So I'm going to set height to auto here. I'm going to set width to 100%. For this, I'm going to set flex grow to 1. I'm going to set a border radius and a background color. .375, and I do have a color for this. Background color, we're gonna set that to same thing as our main, so 255, 218, 218. We should be good. Good there. And then we have our main, and then the last thing we have is our button. So let me go ahead and just check something here. So we have our side nav. Our div is small. Our side nav is taking up all this extra space here. So let me ask y'all, why are our links pushed all the way down? I'm gonna go ahead and just add the button, but think about that.
Is it the natural? And is it natural because the div has to always have a natural margin in it, and you have to use the CSS reset file to take that stuff out?
So let me hover over this. So we have, if you look at the size of our nav, the green is the padding.
Right.
Let me zoom in. Can I zoom in? It's not working. So the green is the padding, the blue is the content. But then if I go down to side nav, you can see that the blue is the content. We have no padding, we have no margin, but for some reason, what's this purple? Let me scroll up here. So this is our side nav styles. Tiffany, you got any guesses on this? If you look at the side nav styles that we have here, and if you look at when I hover over side nav, we see this purple here. What's pushing our links down?
the div? Is the div within the div?
Check it out.
And then, yeah.
Check it out. Check it out. So if I hover over this nav, side nav, there's purple. So if blue is content, green is padding, orange is margin, purple is something, right? Purple is something we added. So if you look over on my screen at the side nav styles, which one of these is purple? Is it display? Is it flex direction? Or is it height?
It's got to be the height then, right?
You are right, sir. I did want to
Yeah, so
add
you
margin. I did have margin. Yeah, I had this margin here, right? I think now I know why I added the margin, because just for space right there. Yeah, there we go.
Well, what if you give it a height and like what is it, min height? So you could say height and it won't do that. That space won't go there. If you give it a min height less than the height that you know you will never have, won't it never have that purple space?
If it's min height, then this is going to be the minimum height. It's never going to be smaller than this. If you do max
Okay.
height, then it's never going to be bigger than this. But why? Why do we need those at all? If this
Why do
were,
you need it?
yeah, why write the line of code if you don't need the line of code? So that's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty responsive. We have our little bit of margin that we added. So yeah, I mean, let me even change that. That looks a little bit better. 4 rems looks better. So yeah, that's starting to look pretty good and pretty responsive, regardless of whether we're using mobile or we have tablet. It looks good. You know, the only thing is we have our button here that we need to style. So let me go ahead and inside our button we do have some text, so I'm gonna go ahead and add display flex. It's nice to see that you could add display flex to a whole ton of different things. I had the height of 48 pixels, which you don't need, and I also had the width of 48 pixels, I believe. And none of these matter because this button's height is taking up the size of the container. So we have flex grow, set this to 1. That way we know that this logout is going to be the same size as our other buttons as well. If all of these elements are set to the same flex grow, then they're all going to end up being the same size. They're going to grow the same amount. So align item center, I'm only adding this because we're potentially adding some text inside of here. Same with justify content center. Align items is going to center it vertically. Justify content is going to center it horizontally. Horizontally. Gap 0.5 rem. I did add that even though we had a gap added to our gap added here. Let me go ahead and just see if I take this gap and this gap. Yeah, so we're still ending up with the same gap, and that's because we added a gap to our links. So I'll keep that there for now. I think one of the coolest things about CSS too, and when I write it personally, I realize that there's a lot of CSS. Like I go through, there's sometimes when I'll write a style sheet and then I'll go through and I'll comment out one line and just see what it changes. And a lot of the time, that's like one of the ways that I learn the quickest is just seeing like, oh, I have a ton of code that I don't even need. You know, so it's pretty cool to see. But yeah, so we have gap there. We're going to add a border radius. We're going to add a background color. Border radius of 0.3. 375 like the rest of the stuff, right? Yep, like these other ones. Let me ask one of y'all just to get you involved. So I'm curious actually who's working on this on their own, just behind the scenes, because typically we do have people working on it alone. I know Ricky's always working on stuff independently when we give the opportunity. So I am curious to see other people's designs. I don't know if everyone's just watching as I go ahead and work through this. Hopefully other people are working on it because you'll be able to post it in the projects just so everyone else can see the work that you did tonight. But if not, that's totally fine. Let me ask you, I asked James the last question, so let me ask you, Tiffany, how do I get rid of this line on the outside of this button? Feel free to Google it if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and change the font size to 0.875 rem, just so it matches the rest of these other ones. And I'm going to go ahead and same thing with the cursor. If you can see, if I hover over this, pointer, 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 no pointer, even though it's a button. So
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. Yes, that's what I was thinking. That line, that's the radius, right?
This border on the outside, how do we get rid of that?
Just get rid of the border radius, right?
No. The border radius is the curves on the corners.
Oh, the curves. Okay. What is this? The line is pretty much the thickness. And this is for the button, so you're trying to get rid of that line outside of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Feel free to do a Google search or ChatGPT and just say remove border from button HTML.
Okay.
Yeah, it should give you the answer.
Chat GPT. It said remove border from button.
Yes. And then I'm going to be asking, since you and James are the only ones that are subscribed right now, I'm going to be asking you guys a lot of questions when it comes to the media query. So,
Okay.
yeah.
CSS. Okay. Oh, okay. It said something about in CSS you would do the border none.
Border
None.
none. All right. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. It's looking good. And then we just have our... What's the last thing we need to do? We have one more thing.
What is it that we have to do next? Like, what are we trying to do?
What stands out when you look at this link, this link, this link, and this link? What's the most obvious thing that stands out?
The color.
Exactly. Background color, and let's just go ahead and steal that from here. There we go. So now,
Okay.
now that's
So,
good. That's
So I'm curious,
responsive.
when you started the project, did you start it in Node.js?
No,
And that's how you got this?
no,
No? Okay.
nope. I just
Okay, 'cause I'm
started.
looking at...
I just have an HTML and a CSS file.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so that's that. That's our mobile design. It's responsive. It works. If we
Oh.
look at a small mobile, large,
Oh, wow.
it looks
Okay.
good. It looks good no matter what size the screen is. It looks good. So, but now when we look at it on desktop, this is not what we want it to look like on desktop, right? On desktop, we want it to pop over to the side, right?
Yes.
So
So,
let me ask
Uh,
you, what's the most
oh,
obvious thing that needs to change? So let me go ahead and just set up the media queries, and then we'll start working from the top to bottom of the different elements. And I'll ask, we really don't have to change much. Like, it's really not much to make it responsive for desktop. But let me go ahead and just say, so if we're setting up media queries and we're like, okay, we've designed it for mobile. You look at it, you inspect it, it looks good. Like, this is good for a mobile device, whether it's a small mobile, medium mobile, large mobile. It looks good. It looks good. It's exactly what we want. Or tablet. It looks good. It matches our design for mobile and tablet. It looks exactly the way that we want it to look. But now, when we go to desktop, it's like, oh, this has a mobile design for our desktop. So if we look at our Figma, you can see the difference here. So let me go ahead and just set up the media queries. So first thing is, we just need to say @media. And then after I say @media, I need to decide at what screen size I want the styles to change. So we're only going to add one style. Sometimes you have like 5 or more different screens, like you really breaking it up on a granular level. We're not doing that. We're just going to set one to keep things simple for now. And I'm going to go ahead and say min width at 768. That's a typical size. So now anything bigger than 768 pixels, we should see changes. So just to make sure that this is set up correctly, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the body. I'm going to post this in here. And I'm going to, let's just say we want the background color to become really dark red. There we go. And now, so if I move the screen, anything over 768, it's dark red. Anything smaller than 768, it goes to gray. So this is, we know that this is where it changes. This is where it's going to change from our tablet style to our desktop style. And so we're going to change this red afterwards. Actually, let me just give it a different color to make it stand out a little bit better. All right, so still a little too dark. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so we can see clearly where it breaks, right? And that's what this line of code did. @media, we're changing the screen size. We're targeting screens that are at 768 pixels or greater, and it is now in place. We see this working. So, looking at our design, what do we want? What's like, as far as the body goes, what's the big difference we want when you're looking at our nav and our main? So our nav, if we look at our HTML, we have our nav and we have our main. Those are the two high-level elements. The nav contains everything in the navigation, and the main is just everything else. So what do we want to change? Look at the structure of this website. Look at the current styles of the body. Let's go ahead and just I'll bring this down here. Actually, we just want of these here. What do we want to change?
Well, you just want the nav to change, right?
What do we want to change about the nav?
You want it to not be in a row. You want it to be in a column.
Actually, it's in a column right now. The nav and the main are in a column right now.
The nav and the main is
because they go top to bottom, right?
You go top to bottom. The nav still has to, the nav would be in a row there.
So which one of these are we changing to row?
You're going to change. Did you change the main? Everything is in the body.
So the body, we have 4 properties right now: background color, height, display, and flex direction. Which one of those need to change?
The flex direction.
Yes, exactly. From what to what?
To row.
Row, right?
Yes. Boom. All right. So it's changed, but we're not seeing any changes here. So let's go ahead and work our way down. I want to go ahead and just say, so we have our nav. We have our nav, and we're not able to see our main. So if we hover over our nav is 100% width right now. So we can't even see our main right now. What do we want to change about our nav element? Let me go ahead and get it.
So you have to give it a width?
Yes, yes, exactly. All right. So we just want to change the width. The width that I had was like 16 rem. And then boom. So now you can see, now we're starting to get there, right? But we still have a problem. We still have a couple problems. If you look at our design, we want our brand section, the green section, to be bigger. We want our links to not be set up as row anymore. We want them to be columns, right?
On the side, yes.
Yes, yeah. So let's start with the brand. Let's start with just one section at a time. So we have our brand, right? And of these properties here, actually it doesn't even have to be these properties, but like if we look at our design, what needs to change about this green section?
Let's see the design again.
Hold on, let me see. Yeah.
Green section, the box has to be a little bit shorter.
Taller, you mean?
Yes.
So this one here is too short.
Take
you're
that
saying.
gray out. Yeah, it just has to be one color.
Okay. All right. So
Isn't the logo still going to be in there?
yeah. So Tiffany, you weren't here when I mentioned that. The gray piece is just where the logo is going to be. So I kind of added that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll keep that, but we actually want that to be a little bit bigger too.
Okay.
But I'll go ahead and add that just since it's not in the design. But as far as the height goes, really the only difference is we just need the height to be a little bit bigger, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll just say height. Let's try 10 run. That should be good. That looks good. All right, and then we also, the logo is kind of, now it's just a little tall. So let me go ahead and what's next? We got our logo. We'll make that a little bit wider too. So we'll say maybe 8 or 10. I think that's all.
So we pretty much making a desktop version now. So you pretty much copying everything that we did in the mobile version and bringing it down to the desktop version, which is under the media.
Yes, we're modifying the elements from the mobile version to fit the desktop, or to just be styled like we want them to be styled for the desktop version. And really it's just like a couple small tweaks, you know?
Okay.
So we have our logo, and then, so this is a good one right here, links. So our links are sitting right now inside of a link container, right? So if I go to nav, all right. So we have our links container, right? Containing our 3 anchor tags, our div, and our button. So what do we want to change about our links container?
Okay, now those you want to make them in a column, right?
Yes, exactly. So let's go ahead and change our flex direction to column, and boom, nice. And then we also want to modify the gap, because the gap that we had before was adding a gap horizontally, but now the style that we have, we just want to reverse this. So this is horizontal, this is vertical, so I'm just going to swap these. And there we go. So we got that there. Let me go ahead and look at our button here. I believe we had... Alright. So the width, let me just make sure it works in mobile too. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, cool. So, that works. We have our gap. I removed the width from the button. We really didn't need the width for the button, and we didn't need the width for the anchor tags either. Especially with the responsiveness. Okay, cool. So next we have the the anchor tags, right? So what needs to change from these anchor tags? If we look at, it doesn't always have to be something that's here right now, but it can be.
Want to change something with the anchor tags? What?
Yes. So let's just look at the design. Just one thing.
You put a little more gap between them. The gap is small. Oh, you want to move it over to the left. You want to move up the text over to the left?
Yes, yes.
Instead of the center.
Yes, exactly. So it would be, I believe, flex start. Yes. Cool. And then also, I guess we could give it like a padding left, 3 pixels, just to give it a little space, maybe 5 pixels, a little space. We don't need anything wild. All right, so we have the A tags there. We have, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add display block now, because we have them showing up here, but really what we want is when we go here, we didn't add these styles, so let's go ahead and add them now. And we'll say display none. Same with the button, because I would typically add, like, for mobile you will add icons. You don't really want words, you know. When it's bigger like this though, you would want the words. So we'll go ahead and we'll add button P, also display block. So now you could see. Cool. All right, so we have our paragraphs. And then we also want, so there's a problem, there's an interactivity problem when you hover over the links. It doesn't really change color, so we could go ahead and add.
Hover?
Yeah, just a hover. And I did have a color for this, so it was, just make it a little darker. That should be fine. And the reason why I didn't add it to mobile is because when I have it in mobile version, it just doesn't, the hover doesn't work really. It's more of like an active. So we have hover there. And then let's look at the design. What do you
Okay.
what do you notice about like missing elements or elements that are there that shouldn't be?
So there's a big box, the log out box, your one at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a div in the middle?
Let's take a look at the HTML. So we have our links, and then in between our links and the logout button, we have a div called space. So
Yeah, the
yes,
space div.
yes. So what do we want to do? It's literally one line of code. Because if you look at space up here, we already
You
have
make
all.
this
We
a
already
little
have all the.
height.
Yeah, we already had. No, we already have all the styles. Height's already set. We already have everything already set. We just need to change one of them from something to something else.
Let's see. Can you do it with the growth thing? The
The
flex,
audio, right? Yeah.
The what?
The audio, the height, right? Or the would it be the width? The
The
width.
the height's already set. Grow's already set. Actually, I don't even think we need the height because the grow's set, and they're all inside of a container with Flexbox. But if you look at the space in the
grow is
in the mobile version, though,
yeah,
display
it's not,
display set to none.
yeah, that's set.
So no matter what we change, we're not going to see it unless this changes. So what are we changing that to? Look at the AP and look at the button P. Look at this one and look at this one.
Block.
Block.
Exactly. There we go. So, all right. All right. So it's showing up now, but for some reason, flex grow is set. Our links, flex direction, and our links up here display flex grow. Let me. All right, so this actually isn't growing. Our links isn't growing, so flex grow 1.
Can you make them all different? Can't you make the links of flex grow different than the space grow?
You don't have to. You don't have to because so what we have here is if you look at we have our links container, which is flexbox, and this is supposed to grow to the full length of to the full height of this here. So, but if you hover over it, you can see that it's not. The height is 223 pixels. So that's actually not growing. So we have a problem there. And then also, if you look at the anchors, they're not growing at all. Actually, yes, they are. But then in mobile version, justify content, we have okay. So in the mobile version, we set their grow to 1. But in the desktop version, we don't want these to grow. We only want 1 to grow. We want the space to grow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to flex none, and that should take the flex off of these ones. Actually, yeah. So flex, and then the div is the only thing that should be growing, but it looks like the links is still not growing. So I believe there needs to be a flex none on something else, but don't worry about it. We'll push through, and then we'll come back and we'll figure that out. So no sweat. So we have our display block from space, space here, display none, height auto, flexible 1. That's exactly how it should be. Perfect. All right. So we're going to our button next. What needs to change for the button? What needs to change for the button is similar to what needed to change for the link, so feel free to just shout out Tiffany or James since y'all are the subscribed ones for now.
Can I see the figure again?
Yes.
So log out. What's different about the button? Let me see.
You see the original one?
Yeah, you got to move it to the left again. You need to move the text to the left.
Yes. So button.
Is that the content or the log out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the log
Okay.
out button.
Okay. So then make it to the left, right? Yeah.
Yes. Flex. Start.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Cool, cool. And then let me just check the button up here. So this button also has flex grow. Alright, so let me go ahead and
Now
just...
the flex grow, I have never heard that. That's something new. I have never heard that before.
So we have flex none there. Just to make sure that the button doesn't have flex added to it. And then...
Yeah, with CSS, there's so many things you're never going to know it all, but then you Google it when you need it
I
to
know.
figure out how you're going to do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And as you do more and more things, you're going to have your own examples of how you did it in the past that you can refer back to it. Thinking that you're going to remember it all, well, maybe you can. I can't.
Okay, I think I know what it is. I think I know
Okay.
what it is. We could do a Google search to fix this, but I'm pretty sure I know what this is. So let's, if you look, all right, so if we look at the body's set up perfectly. We have our navigation on the left. We have our main on the right now, so that's perfect. Our main is not red, though. Let me... Our main should be red, right? Should have that red background. So let me just check. So main... with 100%. There we go. All right, cool. So now let's go ahead and just look at in our main here. We have a there we go. That's much easier. All right, so that's much closer to. All right, yeah. Cool. All right, so there's one more thing that really stands out here, and it's just fixing this links and the A. So we have this space. If you look at this space element on our mobile screen, it's not even supposed to be there. So this is perfect. We have our 3 links, our 3 anchor tags, and then we have our button. Everything is functioning the way that it should be functioning. This button looks a little wide, but that's okay. Might be something related to the gaps. But we we can figure that out now. I won't dwell on it. But we do want to see the space when we go to desktop. And so what is the problem here? What is the problem? So our body is good. Our nav is on the left side. Our main is on the right side. We have our side nav containing basically our branding information, and then we have our links. So our links div is not filling the container. What could it be? I'm going to throw this in towards Tiffany or James. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but
The links
see what y'all
is
think.
not filling the container.
Yes.
The links
Yes.
container.
Look at my screen. As I hover over this, you can see. And it was similar to before. Remember when I was talking about look at the purple?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what CSS makes a div fill the whole body of the what does that do? What is the CSS look? I don't know.
Are you asking me?
I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out, I'm asking myself the question.
Okay.
That's
Cool.
the question, right? That's
Yes,
the
yes.
question that we need to answer to.
Yes, yes,
What
yes.
would make the link div fill the entire body of the screen? The link is in the body. So what would make the div fill the entire mat div?
Yeah, so if I hover over the div with the links inside of it, you can see that the height, the width is 245 pixels and the height is 223 pixels. And so the height of this links div is not going from the top to the bottom. It's going from like the top to about 1/3. So let's check its parent container. So the nav. All right, so the nav's height is from top to bottom, right? If I hover over
Yes.
nav, you can see it's
Yeah.
shaded in. The purple diagonal dotted lines are from top to bottom. But then when I go to links, the diagonal dotted lines are not. It's not. So let me ask you this. What needs to change? Is it the nav element or the links div?
The links div,
Yes. What needs to change about the links div?
the height of the links div needs to change.
Let's try. What do we change it to?
What is the maximum height of the body? No,
Maximum.
it can't be the it can't be.
100, right?
Oh,
Aha.
let's see.
Oh, okay. Because you try and get that space, right? In between
Yes.
the contact. Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
Between the contact and the log out, we're trying to get that space in there.
Yes. Yes.
That's too big, right?
It's a little too big. Yes. Yes.
So can you go back to like the diagram and then figure out what the height and length of that space part?
So the cool thing too that you notice here is that you could actually see our space div now too. See the blue? That's our space div.
Okay.
So how could we make our space div more visible? That's a good question. Because right now, I can only see it if I hover over this, right? It's blue. But if I don't hover over it, I can't see it. So what's...
Does it have a color? Does it have a background color?
Let's check space.
Yes. Go to background color right there.
What's wrong with this background color?
And color.
It should come to the front, right?
Well, just
Well,
look at... is there an error in the code? I messed this up. This was me.
Oh, you got
Yeah.
to have a fourth one, right? Or
Well, let me grab one that's done correctly.
Yeah, RGBA. There's no RGBA.
Yes,
Yes,
that's what I was
exactly.
thinking.
Exactly.
okay.
There we go.
There you go. Okay.
So now we have that. Now the height is a little too big though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's the problem here?
The height is audio, so you have to make it. You gotta add some numbers to that, right?
Can you make it a max height?
It should be this should be auto, I believe. So that's not I don't believe that's the problem there.
Okay.
Okay. So we have our nav.
Okay.
We have content that's overflowing out of our nav.
And it's the space that's making it overflow, right? The space thing is pushing the button all the way down to the bottom.
Yes. Let me ask you this. So if you what I set this links div to is 100%, which means that this links div is going to be 100% of the height of the screen, right? The problem is the links div doesn't start at the top of the screen. It starts underneath our brand component. And so if I make the height of this links div 100%, it's going to make it 100% of the screen. So this thing that's hanging off down here is literally the same exact size as this brand. As this brand. See the size of this brand component? The green one?
Is there a minus?
You could, but now you're just making a problem worse instead of just solving the problem. So what do? We don't want this height to be 100%. What do we want it to be? Go ahead and do a Google search and see if you can find the answer to that.
I don't know how to ask the question. We want the links to be
how do you feel?
Set of the.
How do you set the? How do you set the height responsively? How do you set the height dynamically? How do you set the height so it fits within a container? Those are a couple different ways you could ask. And all y'all will see, I know there's a lot of people hanging out here. Hopefully some of you will actually post your code. Hopefully everyone just wasn't like watching the whole time. I would love to see other people's code if people were working on it. But for those who are new, and I talk about this all the time, learning which questions to ask and learning how to ask questions is one of the most valuable skills you can have, seriously. Like if you understand higher level concepts and you understand how to ask questions, you can literally build anything. So let me know what you guys.
So how to set the height responsibly for a container CSS?
That
could do a dot container and then do the height at 50%.
50%.
Or you could do container flex grow and then make it to 1.
Flex grow?
Yes. Container flex grow to 1. Well, no what? No, actually, know what? Using media queries. Container height 200 pixels.
Height 200 pixels? That's static.
Yes.
That's static though, right?
It said using media queries, you can also set different heights for contain based on specific viewport width using media queries.
Yes.
So if you have a media screen and mask width 768 pixels, you would make the container height of 200 pixels.
Yes.
But if you make the media screen and max width is 768 pixels, height is 200 pixels.
These are static numbers, though. I don't think static numbers are gonna work.
Okay.
Does all flex work?
Yeah. So if we look now, because Tiffany, you did mention something about setting the height to 50%. If we set the height to 50%, then it's good. You can see that
Okay.
our links container is not overflowing anymore. If we set it to 80%, now
There you go.
actually there we go. But what if so let's say what if come on. Hold on. What if the height changes? Now, see, if the height changes, now we have the same problem. So we could definitely do it with Flexbox. I'm pretty sure it's just height auto, but let's go ahead and try it out. No. So it's not working. Alright, so let's go ahead and y'all continue to go ahead and search. I played around with the code earlier, so let me go ahead and just pull open my other code and see if there's any discrepancies.
Open on the screen.
So links. Links is contained inside of nav. Alright, so what I'm gonna do is, so I set flex to none on the mobile version, and I'm gonna go ahead and set on on the nav for the mobile version. I set flex to none, and so on here nav, I'm gonna go ahead and set display to flex, and I'm gonna go ahead and say flex direction column. There we go. Alright, so basically what I did was, instead of worrying about setting the height for the links, I knew that the container that's containing the links, so you can see the nav container is containing our side nav and is containing our links. So if I add Flexbox to our nav, and then I just allow the links to grow the size of its container, that takes care of the height. There's definitely a way to do it statically with CSS with the height too, but I typically move towards Flexbox if I can. And so what I did was, since on the mobile version, our default mode, we have flex set to none, that's what I did. I set flex to none on the mobile version because I knew that I was adding Flexbox to the nav container for the desktop version. So if you scroll all the way down to our media queries, you can see for nav, I added Flexbox, I added flex direction column, because if you don't have flex direction column, default's gonna be row. So it just doesn't look good. It sets up in a row. So if I add flex column, it sets up properly. And then since I added flex to the navigation, I just did flex grow on the links, and that made sure that the div that's containing the links, our space, and our button just grows to the size of its container, essentially. So.
Okay, this is really sweet. What happens when we put some divs in the body of the main. Like say we want it's a mobile and we have 6 divs on the side. No, the mobile has is the other direction. Yes, this is the I get confused. This is the desktop view.
Yes.
So in the desktop view, we want to have 12 divs, 4 across, 4 going down, because we're putting pictures in it. Then when it turns to mobile, we need the divs to go in a row, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do?
That's a good question. I'm gonna leave that up to you, James, because we have 10 minutes left.
Okay, I'll look at
So
try to figure that out.
yeah,
This is going to look nice.
I'm trying to picture what you see. I would actually like to see the Figma so I can know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah,
Okay.
I want to give everybody. I just want to talk about this really quickly for a minute before we sign off because we only have a couple minutes left. So if you see this, we have our mobile version. Let me go ahead and just move this very quickly. There we go. So you can see it looks exactly like it's supposed to look as far as our Figma design goes. That's exactly how it's supposed to be. Boom. Looks good. If I go ahead and make it the tablet, actually, we'll just say this for the tablet. Same thing. Looks pretty good. And then if we go ahead and make it desktop, and we look at our desktop, it looks good. A lot of the stuff that would change here, just so y'all can see, is like all these colors. We would definitely be cutting all the colors out. As far as like this section right here, it wouldn't be red. The main section, it would not be red. James, as far as the divs go, that are you talking about putting like?
Yeah, like across. Like I like this, right? I'm doing a game thing where I display like all of the different games. I have a picture of each game, and I put them across like this. If I did this right, I would put them across in a row here. There'd be 4 rows. There'd be 4 divs with 4 different pictures in each of the divs, right? Then when I change it to the other media query, they're going to have to all come in a row because they're not going to fit all the way across the screen.
So
You know
you're
what I'm saying? If you got,
saying, I
yeah,
think so.
just
In
like
mobile
this.
version, you're gonna want them displayed as a column, and in desktop
Yes, the
version,
column.
you're gonna want them
I want them in a
displayed.
row.
Uh,
And I could probably
yeah,
do it the same way you're doing it for the sidebar.
yeah. So you could
Now
use.
that I see how you're doing it.
You could do it in so many different ways, so it really depends on what you're most comfortable with. I always go with Flexbox if I can. Honestly, I don't even use Grid a lot, but Grid is definitely another method that you can use. But I always go with Flexbox if I can. But Grid is another option. If you want to draw up a Figma or draw up a design, I could definitely plan to kind of like show you how to do what you're talking about in like next week.
What you really taught me today is using the what do you call it? Using the dev tools to figure out how to do the CSS. I never really did it like that. You know, I have the dev tools, and then like you're doing now, you highlight the code. When you highlight the code, you see where things are, and then you can figure out what CSS you need to put there. I never did it like that, but that's like a much better way to figure out things.
Yeah, yeah. It's
You do it
all
instead.
it's all debugging, man.
Yeah, you do an inspect, and you can see what the container is. You see the size of the container. You see what you need to change. So this was really good for me.
Yeah, this is pretty solid. It's a very simple but elegant, responsive design that will work with all screens. And that's kind of how you're doing it. Like you don't want to focus on like the main section. We'll get there. Like we'll design that. But today we were just focused on the core layout of the website. So whether the screen is the skinniest of all mobile screens or the widest of desktops, and whether it's a short little screen or a long one, it works. And now you could go on and start thinking about like, oh, am I gonna add something in this little space section? What do I want to add in the main section? Is a dashboard? How do I want the dashboard laid out? How is the dashboard laid out in mobile? How is the dashboard laid out in desktop? And then obviously you're always starting with mobile first, so you'd be looking at the dashboard mobile first. And then you would just modify it very slightly for desktop. So, but you just want to focus on very, very small pieces of the website at a time. The core layout is one problem in itself, And so, yeah. If anyone has any questions, though, feel free to reach out to me directly. I know we have James and Tiffany are the only ones who are actually subscribed who made it tonight. Typically, it's a lot more people who are actually subscribed. Like, I'm surprised Liz wasn't here. Actually, Ricky's back. What's up?
Yeah, sorry, I missed most of the part. Where can we find the recording? Is it on YouTube or?
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna post it on YouTube probably tomorrow morning.
Oh, cool, fantastic.
Are you going to post the code? I mean, I know we're supposed to do this and practice this ourselves, but when I have the code, I don't want to say to fall back on, but like looking at your code is so helpful. Like I always try to do it myself. When I get stuck sometimes, though, it's nice if the code is there already.
Yes. So I wasn't planning on posting the code, but you know what? I just need to create.
A repository.
Yeah, I just need to create a repository for all like the small projects because I definitely plan on. We have a repository for the full scale projects. So obviously you have access to that code. You could fork that code. You could clone that code. But for the smaller projects, yeah, I need to just create a repository for that stuff.
Right, and not even for projects itself, right? Because I want to say, like, this is a project, this is a lesson for the lesson, a repository for the lesson. The code that we did in that lesson, you post it, and then if you do another lesson and you're using this and you're changing it, what do you call it, a branch? You call it a branch? Do you call it a branch?
Yeah, I wouldn't even have to create a branch. I would just push everything for something like this. I would just push everything to main directly from there.
You can see the different.
But I could have HC 102, like I could have HC 102-1 directory and then a HC 102-2 directory. So like all the small projects, they could all be right in the repo. So yeah, I'll do that. It'll be easier. Yeah, cool. And then all right, so I'm gonna hop off for like 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna hop up into the open discussion. Actually, the co-working space. So, give me like 15 minutes, because honestly, right before this session, I was seriously coding since noon, and I'd even have look at.
So that's another channel, and
I got a big plate of chicken and broccoli sitting here right now, just waiting to be. So I'm starving right now. Let me just eat this really quickly, and then I'm gonna be back on at 8:15 in the co-working space just to answer questions and have a conversation. All right.
Do we have access to it?
What's up, James?
Do we have access to it?
Yes, everybody has access to co-working space. That's why I'm doing it, just so we can have like a conversation, like a debrief from the sessions for those who are subscribed and those who are not subscribed. So I'll see y'all in like 15 minutes. Just give me a quick minute, and then yeah, I'll chat with you all in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. Great
Thank-
lesson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Yeah.